Magic players, this is Maelstrom MTG. Welcome back to some Budget Modern. Today we're going to be talking about a deck that was actually suggested by one of our viewers. So thank you. But we're going to dive right into it. I did not have all the inclusions that they wanted in the deck. I'm going to say that if, like for example, I have some cards down there which I'll go over in just a moment. But if you have those cards already, go ahead, play this version of the deck, see what you like, see what you don't like, and then replace what you don't like with those cards, see if it does better. But this is going to be the best version that I was able to come up with over the weekend. I was playtesting, I was seeing what was good, what wasn't. And as you can see, the last time this was edited was today. I just decided to make a very rough version on Untap and just keep finicking with it over the weekend. But there are definitely upgrades you can do to the deck if you already own them. But right now, I'm just gonna explain the $100 version. So cards that I did leave out, for example, Karn the Great Crater, great card, amazing, and honestly, the playset of this is almost $40, and I just wasn't able to reason running them. So for that reason, I didn't run it because it was not only if you run this, it's not only $100. You also have to run things like you have to run ensnaring bridges in the sideboard. You have to run walking ballistas, and it's hard to reason being able to run this in a version of this deck that is $100. So I honestly have been considering making videos where, like, now that I have a decent amount of decks that are 100 or below, I'm thinking about upping the budget to 200 because that opens up more archetypes like Tron. That being said, still very playable, but Karn is definitely a card we weren't able to play. Eldrazi Temple, I know Eldrazi Temple is what all basically makes Eldrazi Tron. We made a version of the deck that is a little bit less reliant on Eldrazi Temple, but this is definitely before anything else in the deck. This is what you need if you're upgrading. Next up, we only have 3 Thought-Knot Seers. If you want a 4th, that is also a very, very good upgrade. And we have Mazemind Tomes here in the possible upgrades because we are playing Araska Relic. But Mazemind Tome's just better. I wanted to also try to play Mind Stone, but Mind Stone apparently was also over $1. So it was harder to run those cards, but you can definitely upgrade. Araska Relic is definitely a card you can play, though. Moving into our actual deck list and not just the upgrades that were excluded from the deck, because really what's important is, hey, you can build this deck for under $100. I wanted to have that little first part as a precursor just to say, I know these cards exist. Please don't tell me the deck's not playable without them. I know the deck is very good with them, but it still has so much potential even if you're not able to afford these cards. Now, Mazemind Tome for the playset is only $8, so that's on the cheaper end. So we just weren't able to because it was one of those small things that we just couldn't get. Just barely couldn't get. Anyway, we're going to hop right in, though, because really, this deck is very playable, very good. A lot of the cards in here are really underrated, and so we're going to dive right in. First up, we're going to just actually go with what you'll probably recognize first. We have Matter Reshaper. When it dies, reveal the top card of your library. You may put that card onto the battlefield if it's a permanent with mana cost 3 or less. Otherwise, put that card into your hand. So, worst case scenario, it's when this creature dies, draw a card. Or, when this creature dies, if it's any of a few different permanents in our deck, you can just put it directly onto the battlefield. It is a 3/2 for 3. This is a very nice play. And so, I really like this card. You will see this in most Eldrazi Tron lists. Next up is Thought-Knot Seer, another Eldrazi Tron staple. When it enters the battlefield, target opponent reveals his or her hand. You choose a non-land card from it and exile it. When Thought-Knot Seer leaves, though, they're going to draw a card. And then it's a 4/4 for 4 mana. So this is going to exile a card from their hand, and they don't necessarily get that card back. It's kind of like Skyclave Apparition, where you exile their 13th, well, not 13/13, but like their 12/12 Death Shadow, and then if they remove Skyclave Apparition, they get a 1/1. Like you get some return, but it's not what you want. There's a chance they get lucky with a card, with the card they draw, but likelihood is that the card they get is like, I don't know, like a land or something that they don't really want. Next up is Reality Smasher. Reality Smasher is a 5/5 for 5 trample haste, and says whenever it becomes the target of a spell or an ability an opponent controls, counter that spell unless its controller discards a card. So this is going to make all of our interaction with our opponents, if they're trying to remove our spell, 2-for-1s. So if they try to, I don't know, dismember our Reality Smasher, they're also going to have to discard a card. So that's a way for us to get even extra value, and this is also something that is played in the normal Eldrazi Tron list. Next up is a newer card, not like new to the game, but like newer to the list, is Walker of the Wastes. It's a 5-drop 4/4 trample, which gets +1/+1 for each waste we control. We have 9 wastes. So it starts off as a 4/4 with trample, which is pretty good, but also can get pumped up even more. Now, I was kind of saddened to see that wastes cost so much, but at the end of the day, there's not much you can do for it. We wanted the wastes. Next up is Eldrazi Mimic. Whenever another colorless creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may have Eldrazi Mimic's base power and toughness become equal to that creature's power and toughness until end of turn. So if we have, let's say, this on turn 2, turn 3, let's say we hit Tron, and then we play Walker of the Wastes, and then, no, that would be really bad, because Walker of the Wastes, like, we want these to be higher, but it technically would become a 4/4, so it's not bad, but let's say this enters on turn 3, our Eldrazi Mimic will become an 8/8. So this is a way for us to get like a 3/2, 4/4, 5/5, 4/4 plus, and then an 8/8. Like, our Mimic, we can play this on turn 2. We wanted a turn 2 play, and this is it. And it's going to be able to become a much bigger creature. Now, the reason why we don't want so many turn 2 plays is likelihood is we're going to Expedition Map on turn 1 and then Expedition Map ability on turn 2 so that we can turn 3 Tron. But in case we don't have Expedition Map, or in case we already have Tron, I want to guarantee that we do have something on turn 2. Okay, next up is Deceiver of Form, though, because I did mention it briefly. At the beginning of combat on your turn, reveal the top card of your library. If a creature card is revealed this way, you may have creatures you control other than Deceiver of Form become copies of that creature until end of turn. You may put that card on the bottom of your library. Now imagine flipping over Reality Smasher, or imagine having a few wastes out and flipping over Walker of the Wastes. Like, that would be amazing. So Deceiver of Form is definitely a card I really just want to toss in here. I really almost want 4 of them in here. And honestly, that would be probably really good. But I made this deck with the expectation that you're probably also going to be wanting to upgrade it. And so devoting money into these cards right here is probably what you're wanting to do. Because if you do that, then you can easily upgrade it. That doesn't mean that if you're wanting to just keep it this list that you need to stay that you need to go up in these. This deck is amazing. I've played it. It's so much fun. And the Mimic flip and the Mimic with the Deceiver of Form, all of that stuff, it's just really, really funny because it's a new look on Tron that people think that they know exactly what you're playing when they see Eldrazi and they're seeing Tron. And then you just bring out a Deceiver of Form. And so it's really a fun deck. Next up, I do really want to quickly explain, if you don't know what Tron is, how we're paying for a 7 mana card on turn 2. Is we have 3 lands: Urza's Mine, Urza's Power Plant, and Urza's Tower. They each have a clause, which is fairly wordy, that if you own each of them on the battlefield, Mine will produce 2 mana, Power Plant will produce 2 mana, and Tower will produce 3 mana. So if you turn 1 Mine, turn 2 Power Plant, turn 3 Tower, you assemble Tron, which will, well, on turn 3, give you 7 mana. So you could play a Deceiver of Form on turn 3. So turn 2 Mimic, turn 3 Deceiver of Form, attack with an 8/8 Mimic is definitely something you can do. Anyway, next up is Ugin the Ineffable. It's a very nice card because it gives us removal with destroy target permanent that's 1 or more colors. It gives us card advantage with that +1/+1, and it makes our spells cost less. And we really want those cost reductions, especially since we're not running Eldrazi Temple. Next up is Spatial Contortion. +3, -3. It's a way for us to get like a pseudo removal spell, but that kills almost anything in the format. But it also gives us a little bit more damage if we need it to. It can essentially be a bolt, or rather lightning strike. It'll deal an extra 3 damage if we buff up our own creature. So it has a little bit of flexibility there, but it's mostly for removal. Next up is Warping Wail. It gives us a lot of flexibility with exiling a creature with power toughness 1 or less, countering a sorcery spell, or putting an Eldrazi Scion onto the battlefield. Next up is Dismember for bigger removal, and then Titan's Presence for removal that is... I know there's only one of each of these in here, and that might seem weird to you, but really you will have no problem getting to them. Titan's Presence is an additional cost to reveal a colorless creature in your hand. You have so many. And then you can exile a creature if its power is less than the revealed card's power. So if I reveal Deceiver of Form, I can kill basically anything, and not just kill it, but exile it. So there's that. Then there's Expedition Map, which is a 1-drop that you can pay 2 to sacrifice it to search your library for any land, not just basic. So you can search for your last Tron land that you need. Next up is Erascal Relic. I really like this card, despite what a lot of people might say about it. I was skeptical when I added it to the list, and Mazemind Tome is better, but Erascal Relic does the job perfectly. Because it gives you mana in the early game, and then in the later game, when you no longer need mana, you can sacrifice it. You will get to City's Blessing, unless you just kill your opponent. Sacrifice it, gain 3 life, draw a card, and that gain 3 life has come in handy way more than I expected it to. Quite honestly, when I added this to the list, I didn't see the gain 3 life until I started playing with it. Then I was like, oh wait, I gain life. This is so nice. And so if you go to Mazemind Tome, you're gonna miss the life gain, but it's also an upgrade in my opinion. Anyway, off to the lands, we have Blast Zone for anything that's like 1 and 2 drop heavy, or 0 drop heavy. Well, no, we can't really hit 0 drop, but 1 and 2 drop heavy. I say 0 drop because I always like use this against Hammer Time, and Hammer Time I do it to hit 1 drops and 2 drops, particularly 1 drops, and so I kind of just link it with 0 drops, you know. Anyway, we also have Scavenger Grounds for Graveyard Hate. We have the 3 Tron lands, and we have 9 Wastes. We devoted $8 to Wastes, and it was worth it. I really wish that these were 0, though. I wish these were free. Anyway, before we get to the sideboard, I just want to say thank you for actually coming to me, suggesting a list, asking if I wanted to do a certain archetype, a certain deck. It was really fun, and I really enjoyed playtesting this deck. Anyway, and if you want to see more content like this, please hit that subscribe. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Please do. I see that I'm getting a lot of views, well, more than I expect, and then, like, 4 of you will give me that thumbs up. Please, go ahead, give that thumbs up. It means a lot to me, And if you want to see a list of your own that maybe you're working on, you want to see it, like my take on it, or you want to see what I would do with an archetype, let me know below. Like this, that's what this is. I'm looking at Eldrazi Tron, and someone asked me to make an Eldrazi Tron list, and here it is. So with that being said, you can let me know below, and we will go right into the sideboard. We had Tormod's Crypt for graveyard hate. We had Damping Sphere for combo hate. Now be careful. I know this is weird that we're running this in a Tron deck, but honestly, this is not the kind of Tron deck where you're trying to play Ugin or Karn. Really, it's more of a low-key Tron deck. So if you bring this in, it won't hurt you that much. Now now I'm gonna be honest though, that really if you bring this in against like Storm, it's gonna hurt Storm a lot more than you. Next up is the Sorcerer Spyglass for any pesky Planeswalkers or activated abilities like Walking Ballista. I know we're not running it, but that's just because of its price tag, but other people will be. Next up is Spatial Contortion for more removal, Warping Whale for more flexibility, and Dismember for bigger removal. And really, those last 4 options are really bring it in when you feel like, oh, you know what, they're playing Prowess, I could easily just kill half of their creatures. Or Warping Whale, they're going to be trying to cast some big sorcery like Past in Flames. Anyway, really, you just got to feel out the deck. This is one of those decks where playing it a lot really makes a difference. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you tomorrow.